Erev Tov, everyone, and it is Tuesday. It is Tuesday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset, therefore it must be the Rabbis Discuss, whatever it is that we decide to discuss. So, without further ado, let me first put up his picture, and we will bring in the most esteemed Rabbi Ancel, the chief rabbi of the Dominican Republic. And you are live.
Shalom, everybody, and good evening. I wish everybody a healthy, happy, and prosperous New Year, although it's not the Jewish New Year, but at the same time, it's the Gregorian New Year, and I must tell everybody a healthy, happy, and prosperous New Year to the entire world. We are all God's people.
Yeah, that is true. So, we, let me find, I'm going to reread the question. This was actually a two-parter. I've got papers all over the place here. So, okay, so let me go back to the original question, and then let's go to the follow-up, and then we can pick up where we left off, and then we can go into, well, before we do, let's see who we got in the chat room. We have Yair, we have Donald, we have Marshall, and we have a few people listening in the background. So, after we get through here, then we're going to go into a question that Marshall asked, which is based on these questions here. Does this make halakha, according to halakha, does this make capitalism unfair? So, the original question was, I am a seamstress. In order to save the cost of paying someone to design clothing and to avoid the risk that the designs will not be successful, I visit popular women's clothing store in Galula and photograph the items that are popular, then sew and sell the identical items. My husband recently told me that perhaps what I am doing is improper. Must I cease the practice? So, what we found out from that was, that it was actually prohibited. And it was actually rabbinical theft. But the second part of it the second part of this was actually had to deal with competition. When is competition permitted? So the question in this half of the question was, you wrote in a previous article that when I copied successful designs from stores and then sold my wares in competition with the stores, I might have been guilty of violating the prohibition against taking away another person's livelihood. I plan to stop my practice anyway because of what you wrote in the previous article, but I'm interested to know if I actually violated this prohibition. So, we got into this whole thing about when is competition allowed, and what kind of competition is allowed, and that's where we left off last week because we kind of got a little sidetracked, and which is okay because it's our show and we can get sidetracked as much as we want, right? Ansel?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But it relates in a lot of ways to what we're reading. And yes, deviating is because what we are trying to read, we're reading Torah law and halacha that was written 3,000 years ago, but we're trying to compare it to nowadays. So yes, sometimes we'll deviate from it because of that reason. So we left off what it says that under Torah law, this practice is prohibited. And unless the smaller stores have some kind of an advantage that will somehow allow them to remain competitive, the gigantic stores may not reduce their prices to a level that the smaller stores cannot match.
Okay, so this all had to do with opening a rival. This actually had to do with opening a rival mill, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and it said that you could open a rival mill. You could actually open it right next to an existing mill, and I was actually having some issues with that because there was another thing from Bava Bartra, I think that was Bava Bartra, that was talking about opening a rival store on the same street, and it basically said that you couldn't do that. You had to be far enough away not to be stealing the person's. So anyway, so
continuing, it says, thus, we have established the basic laws of competition. One, the halacha permits and even encourages competition, especially if it will benefit consumers. Engaging a practice which the competitions cannot match is prohibited. In your situation, you have much lower costs than your competition, since you save on development costs and also you don't pay taxes. If you took advantage of these savings and lowered prices to a level that the competition could not reasonably meet because they paid all these expenses, you violated the rules of fair competition. And you are classified as Yorei Leumnos, Javero. That means you are really hurting your Javera means your friend. We should note that this is true, and the Hassam Sofer writes this explicitly. Even if one was forced to close his store since he had other products to sell, as long as he is selling the products you copy, ceased being worthwhile, you violated this prohibition. But now we're going to get away from the whole thing again.
yeah.
Because tonight we were going to talk about, Marshall's think about, is capitalism fair? Is it fair to what? Is it fair to socialism? Is it fair to...
Well, I think that is his question. Is it halakhically fair?
Is it halakhically fair?
Yeah.
Capitalism?
Well, I believe what his point was is that the big box stores like the Walmarts and the J.C. Penney's and the Sears of the past and stuff like that, what is basically what they're doing, is it fair? Because we were talking about this last week about driving out competition.
Is it fair? No, it's not fair. But here's the other part. You have China.
Mm-hmm.
You have Taiwan, who are the biggest copier of
everything.
Of everything.
Yeah. They're the world's biggest thief.
Yeah, and that's stealing. And they outsell the biggest stores in the United States.
Yeah.
Is halakhically fair? No, it's not.
But well, that's the thing, because now we're talking about, okay, that that, okay, going back to the previous page where it says, the halakha permits and even encourages competition, especially where it will benefit the customers. So if you're looking at just simply that statement, then you would say, okay, well, what Walmart is doing and what China is doing is basically halakhically allowed because, that it's the competition that's it's benefiting the consumer. But then we get into the second part of that, which says engaging in a practice which the competition cannot match is prohibited.
Because of the price.
Right, because when you're a Walmart or a Walgreen or any of the big box stores, you can get things at a lower price because you're buying in much greater volume than the little mom and pop store or even the regional store in your area. So therefore, you can buy at a cheaper rate, which means that you can sell at a cheaper rate, and the competition basically cannot match it.
And even though that the bigger store has to pay more expenses for people to invent the new styles, they have a lot of merchandising, advertising, and everything else, and yet they can still sell their products cheaper than the smaller store.
Well, yeah. I mean that they have the ability to spread cost out.
Correct.
Across, they can buy something at a higher price, but sell it at let's say at less of a profit margin because they can spread that lack of margin across a much broader base than the small store can, because the small store, I mean, they're basically, they're trying to make a living,
Yeah.
So
I want to ask a question to Marshall. Have you ever gone into a store and it says this particular suit or this item is 50% off? Off of what? It is 50%. That suit could have been $200 2 weeks ago. So he'll raise the price to $400.
Yep.
And he'll say 50% off, and you're still in the same place where you were. So when you see somebody say 50% off, I always ask, 50% off of what price?
Yeah, what was it
The
last
one
week?
that was, or the one you raised?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot. I consider it stealing. Now, here's the thing: is capitalism halakhically totally correct? Of course not. Is communism and socialism halakhically correct? 1,000 times worse.
Yeah.
Because they don't follow any law. They don't follow halakha. Why? Because basically it's an atheist country. They don't believe in God. So where's the halakha?
Well, they don't.
I just don't get it.
They fix the price too.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It doesn't matter what it costs to make. It doesn't matter what it costs to sell because you're buying it from a government store anyway. You have to sell it at a specific price, which you are dictated, whether it's profitable or not. And
Correct.
everybody has to sell it for the same price.
Yes. Marshall, let me tell you something. I lived in communism, like I said, for 14 years before I left. In communism, there is civil law, there is family law. There's no such thing as criminal law. There's no criminal lawyers. They do not exist. There's no school for criminal law. If you commit a crime, you will go in front of 3 judges with no representation. You yourself and 3 judges. And the judges will say, Ancel, what did you do? Well, sir, today I stole a couple of $100 worth of food. So these 3 judges will open up a book and go to the place where it says that this person stole whatever, I forgot what I said, $200 or $300 worth of food. And on the right-hand side, I will say, this person goes to jail for 3 months. And they will say to you, Ancel, right now, and for the next 3 months, you're in jail. You have no representation, you have no rights, you cannot defend yourself. If you murder somebody, they will just say, oh, you murdered somebody? Okay, next Wednesday, you will get the firing squad. You cannot say, well, I'm sorry, this, and nothing. So is capitalism better than communism? For sure. But I also said, is capitalism halachically or otherwise, is it 100% correct? Nothing. No society, whether it's capitalistic or communist or socialist or whatever, is it has flaws. It cannot be perfect. The only law that I believe that is perfect is Torah law, but Torah law is allowed to be discussed.
Right.
In capitalism, you cannot ask the judge, why are you giving me this sentence? It's because he's going to tell you, I have the right. So in capitalism and in socialism, they are the judges. In halacha, God is the judge, only judge. We do not judge ourselves. This is why one of the problems that I had, and if there's anybody, and I no disrespect to the Catholic religion or whatever, I never disrespect any religion. The one thing that I don't understand is people going to confess. You're confessing to another person, whether he's a priest, a cardinal, or whatever. He's a human being. He has no right to judge you. He has no right to tell you what to do. This is why we Jews, when we make a mistake, we go Yom Kippur and we beat our hearts and say, Hutusi, I sinned against you, God, whether knowingly, unknowingly, purposely, or unpurposely, please, I ask forgiveness. And that is the only way, that's the only thing that makes sense to me. I may be wrong. I don't think so. But that's the only thing, because you're supposed to make peace between you and God and nobody else. It is nobody else's business.
Right. There's no intermediary.
And like I said, capitalism, does it have flaws? Many flaws.
Yeah.
But if I had a choice, thank God that I am here and I am in a republic. By the way, United States is a republic, just the same as the Dominican. It's a republic.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God that I am here, or United States or Canada, because the only way I can attest to you, I can swear on the Holy Bible, that the only way for someone to know what it means to live under communism, please buy a ticket and go stay in Venezuela for a couple of weeks. I'll guarantee you'll get out that plane in New York or wherever, and you'll kiss that ground of the United States of America. As bad as it is, as good as it is, with all its flaws, still is better than any other country.
Yeah. So
right now we are talking about copying. The Chinese, they copy the clothes, the purses, and everything else. And the biggest business in the United States is selling those things. And it's a multi-billion-dollar business. It is.
Yeah.
And they're stealing. It's pure theft.
Yeah.
And they get away with it.
Yeah, because there's no one to hold them accountable for it.
No. So is capitalism flawed? Yes, it is flawed.
Yeah. However, if we go back to this question of the things like the WalMarts and stuff like that. Okay,
Mhm.
now halachically, we know you're not allowed to. Okay, if we take the example of the mill
Mhm.
is set up right next to the other mill, and as long as he keeps his prices within the same region of the other mill, he can do that. Okay, so and if we go into the stores, the rival store, into the same area, he can't go like on the across the street or next door or something like that. He has to be a little ways away, and again, he can't be at the head of the street either, because that's the same as going into the mill with being at the entrance to the courtyard. But okay, so when Walmart comes into an area, okay, they come into the outskirts of the area. Okay, they buy property outside of the area where the stores and stuff that are established already are. Okay, so it seems to me halachically they're doing that correctly. They're not coming in and saying, well, here's a mall that has 20 different stores in there, and I can come in as the big box store, and I can drop my store right in the middle of it and take all their customers.
But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
But they have an underlying a reason because they know. Let's say they're outside the outskirts of a city. Let's say 10, 15 miles outside the city. They know for sure that eventually people will come there because of their prices. So there is an underlying reason
Well,
why.
yeah.
So is that honest? Is that halachically allowed? It is allowed because, of course, you're opening up a store in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
But eventually,
Well, that's what I was getting to, is that the second part of it, that engaging in the practice which a competition cannot match is prohibited. They may be halakhically correct in where they place the store, but they're halakhically incorrect on what they're doing by not allowing actual competition. Now, the only people that can actually compete with them is another big box store.
okay, then all of a sudden, within 1 year or 2 years, you're going to have one of the biggest outside plaza outside the city. And guess what?
Well,
It's going to be full of people.
that's that's the other thing, because once you build in that area, other people build in that area too, because they know that you're the one that's. I'm just reading this error message from YouTube. They're always popping up stupid things on there. Anyway, they're attracting other businesses to the area too. We've seen it, every time. Walmart builds a store, out in the middle of nowhere, and the next thing you know, other stores start popping up around it.
And you will see that home starts to build because they know that these big department stores will up the prices of the homes. So then all of a sudden you have another small town or small city building around the city. I sometimes say you can win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's take an example here. Okay. Let's look at Sears and Roebuck's. Okay?
Huh?
Sears and Roebuck started out as, well, basically they started out as a watch repair service, but they after Roebuck's was bought out by whoever came along, I can't remember who was the guy's name in that came in afterwards and bought out Roebuck's interest in Sears and Roebuck's. Anyway, they are the ones that started the catalog business. And what they were doing is they were fulfilling a need because people out in the rural areas back in that time in the 1800s didn't have the luxury of being able to go to even a local store to get the things that they needed. So the catalog business became huge in the United States because people could actually order from their home, and they could have product actually delivered to their home that they wouldn't normally be able to get. Okay, so we go ahead. What was it? 70, 80 years, and Sears opens up their first store. Okay, so again, is it halakhically allowed? Because basically all they did was take their catalog business and put it into a physical location.
Yep.
Okay, so I mean, which was in Chicago. Chicago is where the first Sears store opened up. Okay, so so basically, I mean, halakhically, what can we say about that? I mean, really, there is nothing wrong with it. Yeah, I mean, they probably did put some smaller companies out of business or local stores out of business when they opened their big box store. But they weren't doing anything they hadn't been doing all along.
But my question is, though, looking at the bigger picture, what was their intention?
Well, what was their intention?
They knew exactly what they were doing, is because they knew they're going to spread all over the United States and kill the small businesses. Is it halachically correct? It's not an easy question or an easy answer.
That is absolutely correct. Because let's face it, when you have two stores competing in the same area for the same trade, basically they're both losers. Now, I'm not talking about the big box store. I'm talking about the small mom and pop store. Mom and pop store opens up here, and a couple of doors down, another mom and pop store opens up, offering the same things over here. They're both going to lose because they're basically splitting their customer base. Neither one of them can make a living.
It's not an easy answer. This is why, trying to compare apples and pears, you can't.
Yeah.
Let's forget capitalism and communism and socialism, because it's there are no comparison. My problem with these three is people get sucked into it. I'm seeing it in what's happening in the United States with whatever her name is that has no brains at all, and talks about socialism, and then we have a senator who's a Jew, who is a total communist, but yet he's a multimillionaire. So where is the medium? Where is the Torah law? Where is everything? I can't give you an answer.
Yeah.
It's okay for him to have $3 million homes, have protection, with guns, but if we want to protect ourselves with a gun, oh boy, you're a criminal. So, yes,
No,
I've been thinking.
that's because they only use their Judaism when it suits them and when it benefits them. Otherwise, they're basically goyim.
This man never had a job.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And there's another Jewish senator. I buried his grandfather in Miami. He wouldn't even shake the man of a rabbi. He thought he was above God. Why? I extended my hand to condolences, and he looked like I am a Gordonist.
Nah.
So, is capitalism perfect? Far from it. But thank God that I lived under it
Yeah.
and got away from communism and socialism. And I'm going to say something. The only country that ever came to socialism as what it's meant to be is the state of Israel. Socialism in Israel are the kibbutzim, the
Yeah.
kibbutz, because the kibbutz, one kibbutz makes vegetables, the other kibbutz makes meats, the other one makes furniture, and they interchange, but there's no money exchange. What was strange for me, because I went for a Shabbat on a kibbutz, and I went with my friend to the store. There are stores right on the kibbutz.
Mm-hmm.
And there's everything in that store. He took some challahs, he took a couple bottles of wine, a bottle of whiskey, whatever he needed. And he started to walk out, and I almost flipped out. I said, whoa, wait a second. Aren't you paying? He says, no, we don't pay. He says, we take what we need. And that was supposed to be the type of socialism that Karl Marx and Engels, they meant to be. What they forgot is that we are humans, and humans are, to be human is to err, to make mistakes. Is because in socialism, you walk into a store and you need a pound of sugar, but you notice that there's only 2 pounds of sugar left on the rafter. So you think to yourself, well, what happens next week if I need another pound of sugar?
Yeah.
So let me take 2. But that second pound of sugar that you took could have been mine. So socialism, in that respect, works in theory, not with humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the way it is. So Marshall must have some questions.
Well, let's see. Marshall says, let's go back here. Okay. Don, we'll get to your question later. I want to get into this. It's an interesting question. I just read that earlier. But anyway, a small business can't compete and go out of business. Okay, which we know that's exactly what the intent is, off of what the business contrives. But we believe in Hashem. Wouldn't that make it more unfair? But we believe in Hashem. Wouldn't that make it more unfair? I'm not really sure what that was in reference to. I think we were kind of.
Is he asking if the person is an Orthodox Jew and he believes in God? Would that be fair? No. What makes him better than me, or that I am not 1,000% Orthodox? And what makes it unfair? Because this person is a Reformed Jew. And what makes it a difference if the guy is not a Jew? We're talking about fairness.
Yeah.
So is it more halakhically correct if the guy is an Orthodox Jew? No, it's not.
Well,
It is
we talked about that last week. That was that closing statement that got kind of both our ires up in the first week that we started. It's amazing that we're going on into 3 weeks on this now. Let me see if I can find the last page of this one. Let's see. Oh, here it is. Here, I have papers all over the place. Okay, so okay, so here was the thing that got Ancel's and my hackles up, shall we say. It should be noted that there are two other prohibitions that you may very well be violating. And one is rabbinic theft, known as Oni Hemenakev. And the second is causing a person to lose loss of livelihood, Yored Leumonot Haverom, since you are engaged in an unfair practice in a manner that curtails your competition's income. However, each of these requires an independent article. In conclusion, you must cease your practice. Note, this ruling applies only where one who suffers the loss are Torah observant, since legally one is allowed to copy the design of clothing. The ruling would be different if the parties are not Torah observant Jews, which both of us thought that was absolutely a ridiculous statement to make, especially coming from a din.
That's a load of boo-boo.
Yeah.
I don't, that, sometimes I don't understand why they say that, but that's their conclusion. But what's their thinking? I don't get it. And that's not because I'm smarter than they are or I'm less than they are, but how can you come up with that anti-Semitic conclusion? Because to me, it is anti-Semitic.
Yeah, it's beyond me why they would actually even put that in there, because I mean, even in the Torah doesn't make a distinction between the Jews and the rest of the world. It says you do this, period. You don't lie, you don't cheat, you don't steal.
Can somebody tell me where it's mentioned in the Torah about a Reformed Jew, a conservative Jew, or an Orthodox Jew? A Jew to me is a Jew. You understand? And most people which don't understand that a convert is more important to God than me as a Jew. I was born a Jew because I had no choice. A convert had a choice. He made his choice. So, all of us who are sitting, all of you people who are sitting and listening to us, it's not that we are trying to analyze what it says. We're trying to make you understand what it means, what they're saying, right or wrong. And if they're wrong, I will say they're wrong. And if they're right, I will say that they're right. Because no matter if you read it, not everything that is written here is law. Because they do not say that this is law. Well, we conclude. Well, what are you concluding? It's not here and it's not there. So
well, and we discussed that a number of weeks ago when we first started into this, to say that what these conclusions are basically opinion, because they have no force of law, because it's not actually it's not a legally constituted Beit Din, correct?
Correct.
Because we're not getting both sides of the story.
And this is why you're going to have people sitting in the room who are Reformed Jews, that are conservative Jews, or Reformed or conservatives in their traditions, and they will. And I wish they would ask questions, because there is no difference, and because they say in conclusion, it does not mean that they are right, and you are allowed to ask questions.
That's
And a
that's
lot of
the that's the whole of the Talmud.
exactly.
There's no final conclusion to anything. It's basically, well, it could be this way, it could be that way, and when Mashiach comes, he'll tell us exactly what it is. But for now, we'll do it this way, and
This is
some will
why
do it that way.
I would suggest to a lot of the people to read the time of the Beis Din, or the Sanhedrin, because the Sanhedrin was made up of two upper and a lower court. The lower courts, there were 72 judges. And if they didn't agree, it went up to the Sanhedrin, it went up to the upper courts. I have not seen, even from the Sanhedrin, I have not seen from the 72 judges in the lower courts, they will give an opinion, but they'll never say that that is law. Because Torah law is Torah law. It's the Sanhedrin or the upper or the lower courts or whatever. They did not make those law. Rabbinic law is rabbinic law. It comes from the Torah. It doesn't come from a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbinic law, I will fight.
Because because
this
rabbinic
rabbi says it's this way, and this rabbi says it's that way, doesn't make him right, and it doesn't make him wrong. Even nowadays, when you go to a Beis Din to 3 rabbis, I still have my doubts, because you can have 2 rabbis say one way,
yeah.
and another rabbi say in another way. And I could listen to their reasoning, and I might say, I believe that just that one rabbi is right, and the other 2 are wrong. So what happens?
Well, there's a famous old story about that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it talks about the rabbis that were sitting there. They were discussing a point of law in the Torah, and the one rabbi, I can't remember what his name is. I wish I could, but the one rabbi says no, it's this way, and all the other rabbis are saying no, you're crazy. If this is the way it's supposed to be, let the walls bow inwards, and the walls bow inward, and the rabbi says, nope, that's not proof. That's not proof. And they said, well, if we're correct and you're wrong, let the I don't know what it is. May the wind blow, or something like that, and it happens. And he says, there's no proof in that either, and it's basically. Turns out he was actually right,
So this is why I enjoy these things, because we can discuss them openly. We can agree to disagree, and we can disagree to agree, because it is not as clear as it is written.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If you look at the laws of the Torah, there is no law in the Torah that you will actually know how to do it.
Or interpret it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I made this point before that if you go, we have 160 some laws related to Yom Kippur. Yeah. Okay? If you go to the Torah, what does the Torah say about Yom Kippur? You shall afflict your soul. That's all it says. So what does it mean to afflict your soul? I mean, that's why I say That's where the validity of the Talmud comes in, and these discussion comes in, because if you go to the Torah and you go, well, what does that actually mean to afflict your soul? And then the rabbis come in and say, well, it means this and that. And we draw this conclusion from here, and we draw this conclusion from here. But in the end, when you get to there's very, very, very few places in the Talmud where you'll see that there is a unified agreement among everybody. It always comes.
Where in the Torah does it say we're supposed to fast?
It doesn't.
Where?
Yeah, all it says is.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the simplest question, and this has been a question that's been going on for millenniums. What does the Torah say about a chicken?
What?
What is a chicken?
What is a chicken?
Yes. What is a chicken compared? Is it a pig? Is it a cow? What is it? A chicken is a bird.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Where in the Torah does it say that the flesh of a chicken is meat?
Exactly. Exactly.
It doesn't say.
It does, because
it's
the Torah actually says, "You shall not seethe a kid in its own mother's milk," and a chicken does not have mammary glands.
Correct. The other thing is, if it's a chicken and it doesn't say that it's meat and it's a rabbinic law, what makes you as a rabbi right?
Yeah.
You're not the judge, but because they couldn't come to an agreement, and this doesn't come from the Sanhedrin. This happened after. They couldn't come to an agreement what a chicken is, what the flesh of a chicken is, so they said it is meat.
Right.
Are they right?
Well, we don't know.
We don't know. So.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take our break because we're a little late on our break. So
Okay.
I'm gonna turn your volume down. I will be back with you, and we are going to take our break and continue this very interesting discussion when we come back. Everyone, please stay tuned. We'll be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back. Okay, just as we promised, and we're going to continue. We're going to finish up the rest of this dissertation, and then we're going to get back into discussing for things further. So let me we'll get Ancel back up here, and we'll turn his mic back on. So you're back on.
Okay, so as we mentioned, even if no one was forced to close, but someone had to stop selling this item or sold it for a very little profit, the Chassam Sofer rules that you violated the halacha And as we mentioned at the outset, according to many, you have the status of a thief and also would be included in the Torah's curse of Hasogas Gul. I disagree with that because it says even if you made a little profit, that means you're not losing. You're still making a little bit of money. Why are you called a thief? And it says that you're included. What I don't understand is where do these people come up with the Torah's curse? Where is this? Where is it written about the Torah's curse?
Well, the only the only place I can think of that there's a curse is what he told to Abraham. I will bless them that bless you, and I will curse them that curse you.
Okay.
At least that's the only place I can think of where it's actually stated.
Okay. But is that a general curse? Is that a total curse? Or who decided on that?
Yeah.
Look, I have a business and I am selling wine. And I am selling a bottle of wine for $8. One brand. I happen to deal with another winemaker and I buy a bottle and I sell it for $8.50. So I'm still making a profit.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I a thief?
Well, doesn't this go back to the idea that you copied something? Now, where are we? Let me.
No. I'm not copying. This is not copying because I'm selling two different wines from two different makers. So
Right.
I'm not copying. What we're talking about here is, as we mentioned, even if one was forced to close, but someone had to stop selling this item or sold it for very little profit.
Mm-hmm.
The Hazam rules that you violated the halacha, as we mentioned on the outset, and according to many, you have the status of a thief and cursed by the Torah. I don't get it. Let's continue, because it says, if you do not pass along your savings to your customers and charge a price that was in line with other merchants, you did not violate the prohibition. However, as we wrote in the previous article, there are other reasons to end your practice.
Yeah, which was because she was actually stealing the design.
Yeah, I'll agree to that.
Yeah.
But the one before, I totally disagree.
Well, it's
I wish the guys would get into it.
yeah. So
Where's my friend Marshall? Come on, Marshall.
let's see. Comparing communism and capitalism, one believes, I believe is what he meant to say, in God, and the other is godless. Okay.
Yeah,
well, you know,
communism
I would kind of disagree with that because I mean, there's a lot of capitalists out there that don't believe in God either.
Oh boy. Yeah, but in long term, communism did not allow religion.
No, they don't. Absolutely.
They don't.
Well, what is that? Marx said that religion is the opiate of the masses.
Right.
Right.
In capitalism, listen, there's a lot of Jews that don't believe in God.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, sorry to say it, but this, you know, they say the truth hurts, but it's the truth.
Well, you have humanistic Judaism, which doesn't believe in God.
Yeah. Jews for Jesus.
Yeah, well, it was it Rabbi Wein who started that humanistic. I actually, here's a quick story. I actually was at a book signing with him, and when my book came out, Zeta and the Hidden Mind, and yeah, I had my issues with him, and I was so happy when I walked out there because my book outsold his 10-1. So people don't want humanistic religions. But and then that goes again back to your point that you were talking about the Reformed Jew, the conservative Jew, and this and that Jew and all the other stuff. At least they believe in something.
Listen, I went to Bar Mitzvah, and I knew I was going to a Reformed synagogue. I happened to put on the biggest tallis because my tallis is bigger than the small talits that they wear.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt a little bit out of place, not out of disrespect. I felt a little bit I didn't know anybody, so I sat in the back. Yet somebody came over to me and said to me, "You are a guest here for this Shabbat, for this Bar Mitzvah. Why are you sitting in the back?" I says, I don't know anybody. So he says, well, then let me introduce you to the rabbi. So Reformed Jew, their traditions are a little bit different. They play music and they do this.
Yeah.
Conservative is a little bit different tradition. They do this, but they still believe in God.
Right.
They're
exactly.
They're not godless.
Exactly. I mean,
So,
it's a place where the person is in that point of their life.
Yep.
As they grow and they get more, let's say, understanding or something like that, they may not stay Reformed Jew. They may become a conservative Jew, or they may go from conservative to being Orthodox or whatever. But we're seeing a big move towards people becoming more observant than we have seen in the past. And I think that's just because of what's going on in the world today. People are so confused and by what's going on in the world that they need something.
I have a small story. You know what I used to do at
You
Star of
don't
David?
have any small stories. You ain't kidding anybody.
No, it's a tiny story.
Okay.
You know what I used to do at Star of David? I used to do Tahar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, when the day of the funeral, I would do the funeral, and I saw these three Polish Jews, and they used to say, "Hi, Rabbi," and I said, "How are you?" I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "We're not such big believers. We don't go to synagogue." Okay, what was I supposed to do? I said, I was busy doing the funeral. Anyways, but I kept on saying them every 2-3 months, that they were getting older and, you lose friends.
Yeah.
I used to say, "Hello, hi, how are you? What's doing?" She said, Rabbi, we've been thinking about it, Yeah, we're getting older, we started to go Shabbos to shul, and this kept on going. 3-4 years later, they say, "Rabbi, we started to put on tefillin, we go every day to shul."
Yeah.
And I said, "Why?" And you said, "Well, we are in our 80s, and we're getting closer to God. We're getting closer to God."
It's insurance.
So I said, I told you. I said, the older you're gonna get, the closer you're going to get to God.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's
so there is no difference, and this is the problem with society, that we start pointing fingers that this one is reform and it causes so much pain and so much fights and so much this. What is the difference between the Satmars and the Breslevs and
Yeah.
I'm not going to touch Chabad, but there isn't. I don't know if you read the article about the chief rabbi of Israel.
Donald brought that up in the chat room, and I told him we would address it later. So let me go back and read Donald's question here.
Yeah.
Donald said, Rabbis, I just read that the chief rabbi of the Sephardi movement now forbids conversions. Any comments?
No, no. He read the article, but he misread the article. He said he closed conversions for now. And I'll tell you the reason why. This has been going on, a fight, for so long. And this is the problem sometimes they say in Jewish with the Yidalach, with the Jews. His fight is with the general conversion to Judaism. He is saying, why is Chabad having one rules of conversion? Why are the Breslov having a new set of rules of conversion? Mm-hmm. Why are the Satmars having a new set of... why are the Sephardics having one set? Why are the Ashkenazis... They said, we're all Jews. Why can't you have one set of rules? So he says, you know what? I'm going to close it. I says, until you agree, there will be no conversions. But this is within Israel. This is not Chutz La'aretz. Chutz La'aretz means out of Israel.
Yeah.
This is within the country. Because basically he has no jurisdiction outside the country.
Right.
Although if you go to Israel, he can refuse your conversion. You understand?
Right.
So
yeah.
You read, but not what his intentions are. He wants that Judaism as a religion to have one set of rules, not everybody make up their own rule. Right. Do you realize that?
Well, a number of years ago, the chief Ashkenazic rabbi of Israel came out and said they would only recognize conversions that were done by certified rabbis who were adhering to a certain set of rules for conversion and stuff like that.
Yes.
And, which got to be ridiculous because now it said basically it closed off every rabbi outside of out of Israel from doing any conversions unless you actually went to the chief Ashkenazic rabbi of Israel and got certified by his group.
Yeah. So in that respect, he is 110% right. Please, for God's sakes, all the chief rabbis from the different whatever get together, hash out a set of rules that every rabbi within the country and chutz la'aretz, which means out of the country, can follow a set rules. The same thing with me. When I started to do the taharas in the state of Florida, every synagogue had their own rules. Yeah. I told you, I attended because they were short one man, and I went in there and I felt like I was a stranger. I said, what kind of tahara are you doing? Well, that's how we do it. I said, well, that's not how I do it. And then, so they said, well, if you don't like it, leave. So I left. They said the wrong word. They could have said, well, just try and do it the way we do it, and then the next time we won't call you. But when you say, leave, I left.
Yeah.
And this is the problem. Even to give a person who's gone to God, to give him his last rites. Every synagogue, and even in Fort Lauderdale, there's half a dozen synagogues. Each one has their own Hebrew Kadisha. They have their own rules. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So they asked me to write a set of rules for taharas. And finally, the state of Florida agreed to it. The other states, they said, they say in Yiddish, Kishmich, where the sun don't shine. That was it. But this is the problem. There's no unification of rules. And this is why it confuses the people, even the people sitting in the audience and listening. When we read something and they say, in conclusion, but whose conclusion? Where do you come up with this conclusion? Because this is your conclusion, and I don't have to accept it.
Right.
I don't have to agree with it. But then the people that are listening to us, they're saying, "Well, what's going on?"
Yeah, in conclusion, would be better stated if they said, "in our opinion," because that would clarify it. It is basically just an opinion.
There was only three people that gave true opinions. One was Carl,
Yeah.
one was Auerbach, and the other one was Feinstein.
You
The
know,
rest
yeah, talking about Auerbach, I mean, next week I would like to get into some of Auerbach
Okay.
because he is absolutely fascinating when you read his rulings and stuff like that, because there is so much knowledge and common sense in his rulings. Especially when we go into like the medical ones.
He is, to me, the Gadol because he just didn't know just Torah. To me, he was an electrician. To me, he was a doctor. To me, he was a lawyer. To me, he knew everything. And this is why I believe when he said, in my opinion, there was no disagreement. And 99% of the time, Feinstein and Caro agreed. And it's a very, very interesting subject to listen to a man that had the knowledge, the intuition. I don't even have the words to say what this man had in his brain, the knowledge, and to explain. And he explained it in layman terms, not in the tough terms that you didn't understand.
Yeah.
And you're right. You want to get into Auerbach? That's going to take about 2 or 3 months. No, I'm kidding.
Well, we practically spent the entire summer on Auerbach.
Yep.
Because it was just so fascinating. Yeah.
He is a very, very fascinating God-given human being. He's beyond. I mean, there's not that many people who can come close to. I mean, I have all the respect to Rabbi Schneerson and all the other ones, but coming close to Auerbach, not even close. Okay,
Yeah,
even the
absolutely.
Satmar Rabbi, don't take anything away from him because he knew. Was he as smart as Auerbach? To me, not even close. To me, the three people were Feinstein, Caro, and Auerbach.
Yeah, and if for those of you who don't know, Yosef Karo is the one who wrote the Shulchan Aruch.
The Shulchan Aruch.
Yeah.
The Rambam, yes, but I have a lot of disagreements with his decisions.
Uh-huh.
I have a lot of disagreements. Was he a smart, knowledgeable human being? He was a superhuman being. Yeah, of course, but not close to these three rabbis.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're gonna close tonight, and if anybody has questions, please ask. Call me. You got my number, you got my email. I would love to answer because I'm sure people have a lot of questions, and don't be ashamed to ask because that's the only way we all learn. And believe it or not, for me and Aryel to go through this is a refresher course because we do forget things.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at, the yeah, let's just take the Talmud, I mean,
Yep.
there's, what is it, 28 volumes?
Yep.
28 volumes, and can you know it all? It's possible, but there are very few people that actually do. I mean, that's why we never stop studying, because you can't know it all and you can't remember it all.
Can't know it all. I can give you a better answer. We'll never know it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Even Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know it all.
No, no, no. This is one of the reasons. Had he known, Hashem would have led him into Israel.
Well, if he had known, I mean, Kabbalistically,
Yep.
if he had known and he was able and he was allowed to go into Eretz Israel, the rectification would have happened, which would have nullified what God was saying, which would have brought an end to all existence. How do you like that?
and that is the only reason, that we know. Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. That is the only reason we know where all our forefathers and mothers are buried. The only person that we know where he's buried is Moses.
Right. Right.
Moses
And the
spoke to God.
And the person who actually performed the Tahara for Moshe was God himself. Which is why we know that the performing the Tahara is one of the greatest mitzvot that you can perform, is because, number one, there's no possibility, it's a pure chesed, because there's no possibility that the person will be able to reward you for it or anything like that. And the other reason is because Hashem himself performed the Tahara rites for Moshe Rabbeinu.
Yeah, that's why it's called Chesed Shel Emet, a true, because you're right, you're 100% right, because that person can never repay you.
Right.
And I hate to tell you, in 22 years, how many I've done.
Yeah.
Yet it says that if a Jew does one Tahara in his lifetime, all his sins that he commits in his lifetime are all forgiven. So that means I've done close to 4,000. I can go ahead and do 4,000 sins.
Oh, man.
I'm kidding. I've done close to 4,000 Taharas in 22 years.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of Taharas. I've washed and shrouded and put them in the casket so many men that it is a lot. Anyways, we will talk next week.
Okay, well, listen, I'm going to turn your volume off, and we're going to sign out, and then as soon as we get off the air, I'm going to come back and I want to talk to you. So
Okay.
I will turn you down now, and I want to thank everybody for being here this evening. And if you have anything that you would like to discuss, or like us to discuss, please get a hold of us through. You can get a hold of us through Facebook, through Messenger, or by email. If you go to our website, which is still called sevenbakers.com, we're going to leave that up until we've completed the transition, and then we'll change the website to Maimon Beit Knesset, or some variation thereof. But get a hold of us and let us know what you would like us to discuss, if you have any ideas. In the meantime, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, is the Torah study in depth with yours truly. And then Friday night, Kabbalat and Ma'ariv, the Shabbat service. And then Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern is Shacharit and Musaf. Right back here Monday evening, with Zeta Story Corner. Great stories, the Isaac Bashevis Singer stories that we've been reading. absolutely wonderful stories, and hopefully nobody will cry next week either. After well, not this week's, but last week's story of it was the storyteller and his horse Suis. So anyway, we are going to sign off now, and we will hopefully see you tomorrow night. Until then, everybody, we'll simply say, Laila Tov.